but go forth with an additional gasoline tax, higher than, let's say, we all want. We're not paying anything like what the foreign nations pay.
So what? Why should we?
I don't think we should.
Good. Well, then why are you advocating it?
I'm advocating something to stop the additional spending. Let's go just for tax cuts and for gasoline increase on taxes if necessary.
Wait. Is your strategy here to curtail and stop the plan from going through?
You bet.
And so you think that if the Republicans come out, so let's say Newt Gingrich today announces a 25-cent per gallon gas tax.
Take them up on it. Take up with a 22%, 2 cents.
But nobody's.
And then trot out, and then trot out all of the cuts in existing expenses that we can logically put in.
Well, I'll tell you, you raise a good point in this regard, and that is, what should Republican strategy be? Should it be to just bend over and let this thing go through and let it fail dismally, hurting people? I mean, it's going to hurt the people who make the country work, this plan. Should they do that? And then say, hey, we tried to stop it, but we couldn't. We didn't have the numbers. We told you, da-da-da-da-da-da. And then hope that this is the final death knell, a death blow for liberalism. I don't know that works, because we seem to have forgotten the misery of the Carter years, haven't we?
Are you driving your car right now? Are your doors locked? Windows rolled up? Are you alert to what's going on around you? If you are, congratulations. You may have just prevented a carjacking, your own. Carjacking is a scary thought. Unfortunately, it's on the rise in many communities, and people are getting hurt. The good news is the best defense against carjacking is prevention. So if you drive a car or ride in one, listen to this. Always be alert to what's going on around you. For example, if your car is lightly bumped from behind and you're suspicious, don't get out. Signal to the other driver and go to a police station or a busy, well-lighted area to exchange information. If you are confronted with a carjacker, give your car up. It's not worth your life. Report it to the police fast. So remember, look around, lock it up, and roll it up. You can help take a bite out of crime.
A message from the U.S. Department of Justice, Crime Prevention Coalition, and the Ad Council.
WGBR, Goldsboro's very own. From ABC News, I'm Gary Nunn. President Clinton is asking Congress for money to restrict the flow of illegal immigrants by increasing the number of Border Patrol agents and speeding up the reviews of people seeking asylum. The president proposes $172 million to do it.
The simple fact is that we must not and we will not surrender our borders to those who wish to exploit our history of compassion and justice. We cannot tolerate those who traffic in human cargo, nor can we allow our people to be endangered by those who would enter our country to terrorize Americans.
The president says the plan does not mean the United States will seal its borders. Under the proposal, the government would have use of some of the same powers, including wiretapping, that it now has for investigating other forms of organized crime. Congress is feeling the pressure from states in the flooded Midwest to act on $3 billion worth of disaster aid. The House is expected to take up the measure this afternoon. Iowa Governor Terry Branstad is optimistic.
We're very appreciative of the cooperation that we're receiving here and hopeful the House will pass it today and that the amount of funding will be increased.
The governors of Midwestern states are in Washington trying to speed action on the bill. House Speaker Tom Foley says this measure is the least Congress can do.
Congress needs now to move this week to assure all of these states through their governors and their elected representatives that we will respond in the same way that we have responded traditionally to disasters of flood and rain and hurricane and fire and other natural disasters.
The Clinton administration originally proposed $2.5 billion worth of flood relief. The damage has been so extensive in the Midwest it will double that to $5 billion. 4 countries have been cleared by the International Trade Commission of unfair charges in a dispute over steel. Exports from Argentina, Austria, Italy, and New Zealand, according to the agency, were not hurting U.S. producers, releasing them from proposed duties ranging up to 73%. You're listening to ABC News.
Hey, want to add some wow to your water? Just pour in new Crystal Light Raspberry Ice. Never before has there been a Crystal Light taste like it. Cool and light with the luscious flavor of raspberries. With just 5 calories per serving, it's the perfect summer refresher. Nothing turns a summer thirst into a refreshing like an ice-cold pitcher of Crystal Light. So try new Crystal Light Raspberry Ice Diet Soft Drink Mix with NutraSweet brand sweetener and turn water into wow.
It's the biggest appliance sale in America, and these are the 4 best days of the sale. Right now at Sears National Home Appliance Sale, save 10 to 15% off the regular prices on all refrigerators, all washers and dryers, all dishwashers, all ranges, all microwaves, and all room air conditioners. Save $10 to $200 off regular prices on all TVs and all camcorders. And get 20% off the regular price of all sewing machines and all range hoods. They're all on sale for 4 days only, now through Wednesday at Sears Brand Central.
The president's new policy on homosexuals in the armed forces is being challenged in a federal lawsuit filed today by the American Civil Liberties Union, which contends the regulations violate the most valued principles of the Constitution. The Department of Veterans Affairs adds 2 more diseases, bringing to 5 the medical problems that entitle affected Vietnam vets to compensation as a result of exposure to the herbicide Agent Orange. The National Academy of Sciences has made public a report linking certain cancers to exposure of Agent Orange. Dr. Harold Fallon, who chaired the committee which reviewed the health effects in Vietnam veterans of exposure, tells about some of the links.
We found limited or suggestive evidence of an association between exposure to herbicides which were used in Vietnam and 3 other types of cancer: respiratory cancers, prostate cancer, and multiple myeloma.
Dr. Harold Fallon in Washington. Federal French troops operating as UN peacekeepers have come under fire in Sarajevo for a second time in 2 days. A building where they were setting up a communications facility was shelled. There's no indication about any casualties. United Nations weapons inspectors have installed surveillance cameras at the first of 2 missile sites south of Baghdad, relaxing, at least for now, the latest source of tension between Saddam Hussein and the West. Wall Street right now, Dow Jones Industrials down 8.39 at 3559.31. The volume 147,050,000 shares. The trading's heavy. This is ABC News.
Now, honestly, with business becoming more global each day, wouldn't it help you to know another language? Well, if you spend some time with a National Dynamics language program, we'll have you speaking and understanding Spanish, French, Italian, German, or Japanese in 30 days. No books, no classes, just our audio tapes in your home, car, or portable cassette player. Call this number today, 1-800-545-1985. That's 1-800-545-1985. Who knows? Another language could translate into you becoming the boss.
For the ABC Information Network, I'm Gary.
For 10,000 years, we have improved our food crops through selective breeding. Now we can go one step further thanks to genetic engineering and other techniques of biotechnology. With greater speed and precision, we can make crop plants hardier and the foods they give us more nutritious and better tasting. Working with nature to produce better foods is one way biotechnology is improving our lives. To learn more, contact this station or the North Carolina Biotechnology Center.
Our skies will stay partly cloudy out there for the rest of today. There is a slight chance of a thunderstorm in the forecast. Most of that will tend to be in the afternoon and evening. A hot day coming up, a lot of heat and humidity with highs up in the mid-90s this afternoon. Mostly clear tonight, lows in the low to mid-70s. Then tomorrow, partly cloudy, mid to upper 90s, believe it or not, and a slight risk of a storm tomorrow. I'm Bill Schmidt at the Weather Center.
This is Rush Limbaugh, the talk of the town, 1150 WGBR. expressed by the hosts on this show are sweeping America. The views expressed by the hosts of the show are not necessarily those of the staff, management, or sponsors. Actually, that's not true, I don't think. I think we've pretty much convinced them all. So,
this is a special edition of the Rush Limbaugh program, America Held Hostage. And now, from our studios in New York City, here is Rush Limbaugh.
Thank you, Johnny Donovan. Just as Ted Koppel and Nightline were there every night during the Iranian hostage crisis, so shall I be here every day during the raw deal. The Clinton presidency now into day 189. Raw deal. You may wonder why we call it the raw deal. It's a takeoff on the New Deal. The New Deal, of course, widely misunderstood. Franklin Delano Roosevelt credited for getting the nation out of depression with the New Deal. The New Deal didn't do that. After the New Deal had been in place for 4 years, unemployment, I think, was still at 17%. It was World War II, and so this is the raw deal because it's such raw treatment of everybody else. Now, my friends, we have received from our brethren at television some very muddy, hard to hear audio from the president's speech yesterday in Chicago, at which point the heckler stood up, and this guy has, by the way, I think heckled Clinton before. In fact, let's see, Washington Post. I think this is the same. Maybe I'm wrong about this. I read a whole bunch of newspapers this morning. It seems to me that this guy is the same guy who dogged Clinton out in California. I think I read that somewhere. Well, now before you chuckle about that, I'm not saying this because it's funny, but rather I've had a note here on CompuServe. Somebody has posed the theory that this guy was a plant and not really a heckler because of what the president said and how he answered it. Anyway, this guy's name is William J. Kelly, describes himself as heading a pro-family anti-tax organization. Now, we're going to play for you what he shouted at Clinton. You're not going to be able to understand it. Some of you might. But it's very, very difficult because this is very muddy, this audio. So after you hear it, I will tell you what he said. Here we go.
Why don't you take the You're the one that talks about you want me to answer the question.
All right, stop the tape. Now here's what happened. You heard him shouting the most audible thing in there. Why don't you take some leadership? Here's what the guy said. He shouted to the president, how can you talk about gridlock when the Democrats have control of Congress? Why don't you take some leadership? Now, this is the important thing. This is how the president responded.
I might say that's another thing that's wrong with this country. There's not enough civility in how we treat one another.
Hang on. Here comes. Listen to this.
But to answer to your question, which is good civics 101, is that the Democrats do not control the Congress when 41 Republicans want to vote to keep anything from being voted on in the Senate.
Time for EIB Civics and Economics 103. Did you hear the President of the United States claim that the Democrats don't control the Congress? They do. Democrats outnumber Republicans in both the House and the Senate. This is axiomatic. This is elementary. And I haven't, in reading the newspapers today, I've seen no story in which the president's claim is challenged. But let me tell you why even the 41 Republicans who can cause a filibuster and therefore prevent Democrats from controlling Congress isn't relevant. Because in the budget, you can't filibuster. Senate rules say you can't filibuster the budget process. So he's totally wrong. It is absolutely untrue. Now, a number of you people are going to say this is Clinton bashing. There goes Limbaugh again. Just don't you realize he's trying to do his best? Why do you have to constantly harp on things? This is not Clinton bashing. I am simply discovering what was said, what happened, and analyzing it for you and engaging in commentary. But this is in my mind interesting. You could say it's somewhat serious. Now, one of the notes I got on CompuServe, the guy says, I think this is a plant. I don't think that, but it's still interesting. I love to examine people's thought process, the way people think. And this guy sends a note, says, Rush, I think it's a plant. Here's his reason. A, the guy stands up and starts shouting down the President of the United States. Normally in a situation like that, Secret Service is right in there and hustling the guy out. They didn't hustle this guy out till he finished his question. Now, that's not totally true. The Secret Service didn't hustle anybody out when they were in California. And the guy finished his harangue out there, whoever it was, asking about taxes and prosperity and this kind of thing. It just goes to show, though, I think, how much, when you cut all the rumors about this president and this administration, more rumors about this administration than I can remember about previous administrations in my lifetime. We have people thinking that this whole thing was a setup so the president could make his condemnation of Republicans statement and his Civics 101 lesson. I think it's interesting to note just how people view the president. There are some people, not all, but a willingness to think that the president would set something like this up in order to make a point. So I just thought you'd be interested in this. Keep in mind, and I don't know, it'd be interesting to see if now in any of the dominant press that somebody points out, well, wait a minute, you know, can't filibuster the budget. This is, though, is it not, proving exactly what I said to you people last hour? That they're going to find any way they can to blame Republicans, even now, when the Republicans cannot be held accountable for 1 ounce of the gridlock. Already the president seeks for a way to convince you that Republicans are really the stumbling block here. Now, what's interesting about this, and there's something else interesting about it, is the reaction to all this of Rosti. Dan Rostenkowski, in essence, said, I wish the president would just be president and let us get on with our business here. This is after being offered a ride back to Washington on Air Force One, some show of appreciation. Yeah, I just wish you'd let me find the exact quote, because I have it here in my stack of stuff. It is very, very near the tips of my fingers. Well, I can't find it here. No, I just found something about Speaker Foley and his stock deal, so that there is absolutely, you can go the extra mile. See to it that everybody views this extra mile to prove that there was nothing untoward going on. Rostenkowski, let me find it very quickly. I wish the president would be president and let us negotiate. Wish he would just get out of the way. He thinks the president is not handling this. He's trying to micromanage it too much. The Congress is where this stuff happens. And this is an illustration of what I meant earlier about there constantly being in our political system a battle for power from the legislative branch to the executive, and both ways. But the legislative branch is constantly, regardless who the president is, seeking more and more executive power. Quick break. We'll come back and return to your phone calls right after this.
You're listening to the EIB Network.
Hello, Rush Limbaugh listeners. This is Harold Siegel with FSG International Commodity Brokers, bringing you today's commodity market update. We've got a lot of excitement in the commodity markets. Obviously, every time you pick up the newspaper, you turn on the television, we see the weather conditions in the Midwest. What we've got to do at this particular time is watch the corn and the soybean markets. We've seen a big rally in the soybean markets, and we feel the next market that could make a move is the corn market. What we want to do is buy long-term options in corn. We can buy options all the way out to December. This is a very heavily leveraged market. For approximately $5,000 invested, we could buy 25,000 bushels of corn. The $5,000 you're putting up includes everything, the cost of the option, the commission, and the fees it takes to clear the trade. Now, with 25,000 bushels of corn, every dollar move the corn makes above your strike price, you're going to get back approximately $25,000. A $1 to $2 move could give you back as much as $25,000 to $50,000 on this trade. And obviously, the weather is a major factor here. Now, let's not lose sight of the fact that this is speculation. The money you're putting up, you're putting to risk. If we're right on this trade, you can make an awful lot of money. But if I'm wrong, you could lose the money you put up. So only invest risk capital, money that if you did lose it, it's not going to change your lifestyle. The minimum account is $5,000. You must earn at least $25,000 a year and have a liquid net worth of $50,000 in which to trade with my company. Again, we've got free information available on this corn trade. Call 1-800-832-1800 for free information on corn options. 1-800-832-1800. This is Harold Siegel wishing you a profitable day.
When you bank with Wachovia, they don't just say thanks and leave it at that. They like to show their appreciation in a more tangible way. And for many Wachovia customers, that's something called the Crown Account. Now, Wachovia's Crown Account is not going to make you wealthy beyond your wildest dreams, and your neighbors won't stop and stare at you, not at all. But when you qualify for a Wachovia Crown Account, you'll get an interest checking account and a number of valuable services someone like you can really use, like a no-fee Visa or MasterCard, no-fee traveler's checks, a reduced interest rate on loans. Hey, wouldn't that be nice? And on and on and on. It's Wachovia's way of saying thanks for being such a good customer. And, hey, you can't hear that too often. The Crown Account, part of Wachovia Personal Banking. It's a welcome change.
Visa and MasterCard subject to credit approval. Member FDIC. Where can you get all the pizza, pasta, salad, and dessert that you care to eat for one low price? The Village Inn Pizza Parlor on Berkeley Boulevard, Goldsboro. The Village Inn announces its Monday and Tuesday night manager special. Monday and Tuesday nights only. The all-you-can-eat buffet. It's only $3.39. Every Monday and Tuesday night from 4:30 to 8 o'clock, the buffet is bargain priced at only $3.39. And it's only at one place. The Village Inn Pizza Parlor. 503 North Berkeley Boulevard, Goldsboro, where pizza is always in good taste.
This is State Trooper Terrence Harder, stationed in Wayne County. WGBR and the Highway Patrol remind you that seat belts and child safety seats save lives and prevent injuries. That's why it's so important to buckle up the little ones every time you take them out in the car. And remember, seat belts save grown-up lives too.
Of government. This is Rush Limbaugh, the Doctor of Democracy, here on the new state of EIB. Have you people heard about the latest controversy out in California? Well, there are a number of them. There's a new menace appearing in the streets called spud guns. Homemade weapons that can hurl raw potatoes into the air. Now, no, I'm not making it up. It sounds ludicrous, but officials say there's nothing funny about what can happen when a fast-moving potato hits its target. If it hits someone on the head, it would break their skull, said Martinez police officer Mike Marciano. If it hit someone over their heart, it would crush the tissue. It would be like taking a sledgehammer to it. Well, obviously, we need a 7-day waiting period on potato purchases. at all grocery stores in California. This program, this state, this network today immediately proclaims the need for a 7-day waiting period in potatoes. At all grocery stores. That's right. And that means, you know, there will be the potato head lobby, which will line up to oppose us on this. Tomatoes, potatoes, anytime, anywhere. You can't infringe on my rights to have my potatoes whenever I want. So look for a battle to ensue in California as the 7-day waiting period on potato purchases proceeds. Lloyd Benson on Meet the Depressed. Meet the Press, I'm sorry. I shouldn't, because I've been on the program and I've enjoyed it. But on Meet the Press, Lloyd Benson, and he's not the first to have said something like this. I think it might have been Robert B. Reich. Good. Now you may be wondering, why did I pronounce his name that way if you're new to the program? Well, I saw him one night on the Nightly Business Report doing commentary. This is shortly after the election, and he signed off his commentary saying, I am Robert B. Reich. No, he pronounces it that way, so I just exaggerate it a bit. People get the point. I think it was Reich. Yeah. Who said it, and Benson has said it since, that there's going to be economic growth out of the flood. Benson actually said there's going to be a lot of concrete poured out there. Well, why don't we just have a natural disaster? Earthquakes for California. Let's come out with a new movement. Earthquake out there to revive the stagnant California recession. Anything these people can lamp onto to show there's going to be, and they're going to take credit for it. Oh yes, we were there. We were there on the spot with all these dollars. Well, it is so, talk about insensitive. To talk about, well, they're going to be, and hey, look, here's the thing about this. There are always, to everything that happens, there's always good and bad. It always is the case. And what is rebuilt out of this is going to be brand new, and it's going to be state-of-the-art, so there will be some positive things. But to sit there on television and say, hey, this is going to be good for the U.S. economy, as though this is part of the Clinton economic plan. Yep, there's going to be a lot of concrete. Yes, Mr. Snerdley, I see you dying to ask a question. What is it? Well, they're blaming the Republicans for stopping flood relief. Well, now, this is an interesting point. This really, now follow this. Who is it that has been saying for the longest time we're in an economic crisis? Has it not been the liberal Democrats and architects of this new economic plan? Why, we just had too much runaway spending. The 80s, decade of greed, all this giveaway, we just had too much spending, and we've got to get a handle on it now. Right now, we got to get a handle on it. So here comes a disaster, and let's just do what we did in the 1980s and start giving the money. The Republicans say, hey, wait a minute, people voted for change. They're going to change the way we do this. We're going to pay for stuff now. Oh, come on, you insensitive boob. How can you say that when these people are dying? And it's a tough sell. I'll tell you, it's tough because this whole Midwest flood, this is biblical proportion flood. This is emotions. And I think that the American people are on balance, far more inclined to do what is necessary whenever to get these people whole and bailed out as soon as possible and pay for it later. Far more inclined to do that than to subsidize people who can work but don't. These people, have you seen them? These people are among the most rugged, self-reliant people that this nation has seen behave in a long, long time. No complaining. There's starting to be some complaining on radio talk shows in St. Louis and Des Moines over the lack of congressional attention to it, just the lack of speed with which these things are happening. But still, it's going to be a tough sell for the Republicans. I know the point they're trying to make. It's a real tough sell, and it's going to play right into Clinton's hands of the Republicans being the obstructionists on things. But they're only doing what the people voted for and voted for change. Change the way we do things. I would like, ladies and gentlemen, to, since we're talking about the flood, I was going to do this later, since we're talking about 7-day waiting period for potatoes in California, I want to delve into this little analogy that I have prepared, taking liberal fairness to its natural conclusion. Let us re-examine the way we're going to tax Americans. Fairness is defined as taking from somebody who has more than you do. You're going to get it, regardless how they came by it. Fairness, by the way, assumes they came by it in an ill-gotten way. They cheated somebody, or they were supposed to give it to somebody and didn't. For example, the Democratic definition of trickle-down, in case you've missed it. Okay, we're trying to buzz that word out of existence. I'm sorry. What am I was going to call it Kennedynomics. Kennedynomics, Reaganomics. Because as you know, you go back and look at John Kennedy's speech to the Economic Club of New York in December of 1962, you'll find that John Kennedy, were he alive, would be a ditto head today, at least on matters economic. He's for lowering tax rates and economic growth, nothing at all similar to what is happening today. That's just got to grate them down there when me call Kennedy a ditto head, taking from them one of their most sacred icons. But it can't be denied. Nobody can listen to what Kennedy said about the economy and say, hey, he disagrees with Limbaugh. You got to say he agrees with Limbaugh. Limbaugh agrees with him. Imagine, Kennedy, Limbaugh, same side of something. Yes. Well, the definition of Reaganomics is this. Rich people, we are going to give you a lot of extra money. We're going to cut your taxes and you're going to put more in your pocket. We know you're nice people. You're going to stand out there in the corner and you're going to pass it around. You're going to give it to people. You're going to be fair and you're going to share it. That's what they call, I have to say the word because go ahead and buzz me if you want to buzz me. But and that's not at all what Reaganomics was. In fact, Reaganomics lowered tax rates on the rich, but the rich, pay an increasingly high share or burden of the total tax burden in the country now. And economists and columnists around the country are slowly but steadily starting to write that. Well, the fairness here is such that, okay, since those people didn't give the money away, we gave them all that money, but they hoarded it, those evil rich people. They didn't give it to you while you're standing out there on the corner. So we got to get them back now. And they are going to pay what they didn't pay that created this malaise in which we find ourselves in now. The rich, in other words, are going to pay their fair share, getting us out of this problem. So, if that's true, if that's the definition of fairness, and let's apply that to flood relief. Who are the rich states? New York, California, New Jersey, Massachusetts. If you want to throw Massachusetts in there, since, they've recovered somewhat since the days of Dukakis. I would like to propose that the states of New York, California, New Jersey, and maybe Massachusetts single-handedly bear the brunt of the bailout of the flood states in the Midwest. Why should Florida? They had a hurricane down there. And why should South Carolina? They had a hurricane. Why should those people back? Why, it's not fair. They had their own disasters down there. Make the rich states bail them out. And didn't California, New York benefit from the decade of greed? Look at all the defense budgets that were increased, bases that were built. Didn't California, New York benefit from it? It's time to make New York, California, New Jersey pay their fair share and bail out the Midwest.
The world's most popular board game is now America's hottest new game show. It's Trivial Pursuit, hosted by Wink Martindale. Every weekday at noon, get ready to match wits with our studio contestants. Join Wink Martindale on the Family Channel every weekday for America's hottest new game show, Trivial Pursuit. Right after Trivial Pursuit, the interactive game. Starting at 12 noon Eastern and Pacific, only on the Family Channel. This is WGBR News, Goldsboro's very own.
This is Wayne Alley reporting WGBR News. The Wayne County Board of Education named James W. Marlowe principal of Goldsboro Middle School in a 5-hour meeting call last night to consider personnel matters. Marlowe served as interim principal of that school in 1985 when it was Goldsboro Junior High School. He's been assistant principal of Goldsboro High School since 1985. Marlowe was recommended for the new position by Superintendent Darren Flowers. His recommendation followed a selection process which included interviews by community and school faculty representatives. The process called for the committee to recommend 3 finalists to Superintendent Flowers, who then interviewed all 3 and presented the candidate's name to the school board for approval. A Democrat who switched to the Republican Party, Walter B. Jones Jr., criticized the 1993 General Assembly in a Goldsboro address last night for ignoring, for the most part, the recommendations in the GPAC study to make state government more efficient and less costly. The former Green Pit legislator, who is a potential candidate for the 3rd congressional seat held by Martin Lancaster, addressed Wayne County citizens for better tax control.
We, the taxpayers, spend approximately $300,000 for a GPAC study to show the legislature where they could cut and make government more efficient, and if the programs will not work, and to actually do away with the programs. Very little was done this time. The money was actually, in my opinion, wasted because the General Assembly was not willing to bite the bullet and to do what I think needed to be done. In fact, the state government grew by 10%.
Walter B. Jones Jr. The Wayne County Social Services Department ran out of special assistance money near the end of the past fiscal year, and the board was warned yesterday it will not fare that well this year because those funds could be depleted as early as April. That observation came in discussing the 93-94 budget. A review of the budget showed the county put $11,000 less in this year's budget than last year's. Commissioners lived up to their promise and did not fund a $388,000 increase in Medicaid and special assistance to adults, recognizing at the same time that the state will withhold revenues due to the county to pay the increase. Commissioners said it was their way of sending a message. It was observed in the budget review that Social Services got only 2 of the 11 employees it requested and was directed to budget the same as last year. Reporting for WGBR, I'm Wayne Alley.
Our skies will stay partly cloudy. There is a slight chance of a thunderstorm today, but generally just hot, muggy summertime weather coming up. Nothing all that unusual. Temperatures will be hot, though, and it's been a long, hot month so far. We'll continue it today with highs up in the mid-90s. Clear tonight, lows in the low to mid-70s. And tomorrow, partly cloudy, mid to upper 90s for highs, and a slight chance of a thunderstorm. I'm Bill Schmidt at the Weather Center.
You're listening to the Rush Limbaugh Show on 1150 WGBR. You are tuned to the hottest national radio program going. During the average day, the average American is lied to 73 times.
I'm trying to put as many people in America to work as possible.
Endures 60 minutes of acute stress.
Do you like the way Rush took up for Janet Reno the other night on his program? He only did it because she was attacked by a black guy.
And 2 million Americans experience heartburn at least once a day.
And I tell you, we are not going to obey the law in this country. Women will not. There will be lawlessness everywhere.
Luckily, Rush Limbaugh gives fast relief. So while there's a lot of things you can't change, you can change the way you feel. In First Run and Best Of, Rush spells relief.
611 radio stations nationwide plus Guam. Then there is the EIB World Service. Worldwide on shortwave frequency 15.420 megahertz. Our audience, 5 million people at any one time, 4.6 to 5 million people at any one time, and nearly 20 million people a week tuning in to the EIB Network, the most listened to radio talk show in history. Phone number 1-800-282-2882. My friends, in other words, here's to sum it all up. This is what you can look for. Here's the game plan. Here's the strategy book. Here's how it lays out. Bad economic news? You blame 12 years of Reagan-Bush. Good economic news? You credit the Clinton economic plan, even though it hasn't been passed. And then, after the plan, when there is bad economic news, you blame the flood. And Republican obstructionist efforts at every turn. Keep an eye, because that's what's going to happen. Here's Doug in Boston. Welcome to the Rush Limbaugh program.
Rush, how you doing?
Fine, thank you very much.
Boston Globe today has an article about the mighty Sweden that the liberals are always holding up as this great place to live because they take care of everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And they're saying how they're hitting hard times and how the unemployment's up and how they're beginning to cut entitlement programs on everything from health care to pensions and slash individual and corporate taxes, which used to be 85% or as high as 85%. So it looks like the plan's not going to work.
Well, this is another dirty little secret. In Denmark, you know, this is Ted Kennedy's idyllic place. Denmark is the place. If you want to recreate the fair society, you do it in Denmark or emulate Denmark.
Geez, I thought it was Massachusetts.
No, he's not happy with Massachusetts. It's not all sweetness and light there. They sell gurgling cods and so forth there. People can do things. You know what, when I was in Israel, I gotta tell you something. I went in for a brief, this was in Tel Aviv on the last day, and I was meeting a very high-ranking intelligence officer in the Israeli army, and his chief of staff used to live in Seattle. And where can I get a gurgling cod? I saw that gurgling cod on your TV show. I've got to get a gurgling cod. So even in Israel, they know about gurgling cods, and they're produced. What's the name of that store? I couldn't remember in Boston. Shreve,
Crump and Low?
Yeah, Crump, Shreve and Low?
Yep.
Yeah, that's where you get the gurgling cod. And it's just a vase. But boy, when you pour water out of it, it gurgles.
Yeah, it ticked me off that they always show Sweden like the daycare. And they never mention that the taxes are so high, and they never mention that, you pay all your income to have these services, and then if you ever did it in this country, they only have, 10 people in the whole country?
And they don't have much of a defense budget there either.
That's right. And if you ever tried to do that here, my goodness, and at one point here they say that on Monday mornings, because of the liberal sick leave policies, they have half the country calls in sick after soccer games. That nobody goes to work on Monday.
It's the Boston Globe, huh?
Yeah.
Remind me to do a Nexus search tonight. I want to get this story.
And the other one is to look at. It's looking 7-11-93. They have an ad for pro-choice gay and lesbian people and to elect Democrats. They want people to work in campaigns just to do that. And you're always saying how people do this for a living.
Yeah.
Well, they have an ad in the Globe on 7-11-93 for that.
Yeah, rent a mob.
Yeah, basically.
Rent your protest.
When I saw it, you just immediately came to mind. It cracked me up. I never saw it before.
There's an example of the era and dominant influence that is occurring as a result of this show being on the air. Well, you've made my day. I'll tell you, this whole business it's not just Sweden. All sorts of countries that are socialist over there. It's the drug policies, all this laissez-faire. Hey, you can do whatever you want to do. We got total freedom here, and we'll pay for your drugs and we'll pay for your clean needles. It's all falling apart on them.
That's right.
And look, this is the thing. everybody, I'm sure you have said this to your friends in your discussions that you've had with them. Everywhere in the world, this has failed. Everywhere it's been tried, this notion of a centralized authority caring for everybody, having compassion for everybody, and able to make everybody equally happy and the same doesn't work. It denies the very existence of the human spirit. That's why I say I'm surprised this stuff is not a museum piece, that it's still actively taught and has advocates. And it means that it is ideological. It is not based or founded in anything other than ideology. And you have to bring to the table a bit of arrogance, and as I said earlier, you got to think you're better than the people who've tried it previously, and because you're a better person, because you care more, your intentions are better, and your degree of compassion is so deep, you want it so badly to work that it will. And you're in for such a huge letdown when your desires, compassion, have nothing to do with whether it works or not, because you're dealing with something that can't work economically. You made the note about Nexus on July 11th, too. Got it. Okay. Thanks very much. I appreciate the call, Doug. Here's Karen in Asheville, Ohio. You're next on the Rush Limbaugh program.
Yes, hello, Rush.
Hi.
Hi. I wanted to tell you that next to faith in God, you're my second reason for hope for the United States.
Well.
I started listening to you during the Clarence Thomas hearing, and when I first heard you, I thought, oh my goodness, how is this man saying this without getting assassinated? And so I started listening rather regularly after that, and I've convinced most of my family to listen regularly. And, the reason I called is
yes,
I was hoping that possibly I've experienced so much frustration with trying to deal with our representatives.
Who is your representative?
In the Senate, we have got Glenn and Metzenbaum.
Yes.
You might as well be talking to, I don't know, talk to yourself in the mirror or something.
Metzenbaum is not going to seek re-election.
No, that his son-in-law. You should hear his...
Joel Hyatt?
Yeah.
Joel Hyatt's going to run for his seat?
That's what I understand.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and he's had commercials for his law firm for a couple of years. You know, I'm Joe Hyatt. You have my word on it.
Yeah, I remember.
It makes a real good campaign message, too, doesn't it? I wonder if... Anyway, I don't really know his son-in-law's politics, but I'm fearful. And hopefully we'll have a good alternative that will win, because it has been really frustrating living in Ohio, and it seems like there's not an issue that I can pose the Senate, either senator, and feel confident that it will make a difference. And I constantly get just plain rhetoric back in response to letters or phone calls, and recently with the budget, I called and said, asked Senator Glenn, I didn't bother with Metzenbaum. He's not even running. He never listened before.
What did Senator Glenn say?
Well, Glenn's letter responded basically that that his campaign pledge said that he would basically raise taxes and make cuts and so on. But what he does, yes, he promised that, but he didn't, he said a lot of things about raising taxes that didn't occur, too, and spending cuts. I haven't heard anything about cuts in domestic programs or in entitlement programs. Have you heard anything on this? Where they're going to make cuts? And so all we're hearing about is cuts in defense, and there's certainly a large...
Well, but to liberals, the defense budget's the only place to make cuts. It's the only place that they've... I love this, too, the entitlement. Well, the entitlement, we can't touch entitlements. Why not? You guys wrote the law making them entitlements. Dirty little secret. I mean, this just it wasn't ordained by God that these entitlements were untouchable. These were written into law precisely so that the vote buying power that these programs purchased, in essence, couldn't be tampered with. And then they sit and hide behind, well, it's entitlement, we can't touch throat. Why not? You just rewrite a law saying it's not an entitlement anymore because we've got a quote-unquote budget crisis. Anyway, Karen, thanks for the call. Quick break. Back with more in a minute.
You're listening to the EIB Network.
It wasn't on the network news. It wasn't on 60 Minutes or 2020 or Nightline. When the New York City School Board proposed homosexual storybooks for grade schoolers, the 700 Club was the first to tell you about it. When it comes to news that touches your life, we get it fast and you get it straight, whether it's politically correct or not. To our way of thinking, anything less is just plain bad news. The 700 Club. We're here for you.
Hi, this is Rush Limbaugh. When you speak, people listen. And the words you use tell them about your